All right, today we're going to look past the usual headlines about climate change. We're talking about something huge, something pretty much invisible that's happening all around us. It's not just about melting ice anymore. We're talking about a complete reshuffling of the entire animal kingdom. And the craziest part? It's happening right now.
Yeah, you've heard the stories a million times, right? Polar bears on shrinking ice floes, melting glaciers. But what if that's just scratching the surface? New research is showing there's a much bigger story playing out. A fundamental shift that's changing the very rulebook for how and where animals live on this planet.
So scientists have a name for it, a global reorganization, an invisible reshuffling of species, and it's happening on a planetary scale. I know, it sounds super dramatic, and honestly, it is. The study we're diving into today makes it clear this isn't some far-off future problem. It's already underway.
Okay, so how on earth do you even begin to track a change that massive? Well, to get a handle on this reshuffle, first you gotta understand the basic rules that put animal communities together in the first place. And it turns out scientists have basically cracked the code. And that code is all about something called trophic structure. Now just think of it like an architect's blueprint for an ecosystem. It's not about the specific animals, like a jaguar versus a leopard. It's about the jobs they do. Scientists call these jobs trophic guilds, basically groups based on what they eat. Are they insect eaters, fruit eaters, carnivores? The trophic structure is just the unique recipe of these guilds that a particular place can support. And the main ingredient that decides that recipe, you guessed it, the climate.
And what's so wild is that across the entire planet, scientists have found there are really only 6 of these core blueprints. They exist on this ladder of complexity. On the very bottom rung, you've got TS1, the simplest possible setup. Think really harsh places like the Arctic or a desert where there are only a few basic feeding jobs available. Then you climb all the way up to the top, to TS6. That's the most complex blueprint imaginable. We're talking lush tropical rainforest just humming with an incredible variety of life and countless specialist roles.
Okay, and here is the real game changer. Researchers built a new computer model that can look at the climate of any place on Earth and predict which of those 6 blueprints should be there. And get this, it's 86% accurate. That is incredibly high. What that means is we can now actually forecast how a warming planet will force a region to literally flip from one blueprint to another. We can see the changes coming.
So what happens when these blueprints start to change? This is where the story splits in two, because climate change isn't having just one effect across the board. Nope, it's actually creating 2 completely opposite outcomes at the same time. It's like we're watching a tale of 2 planets unfold. So let's look at part 1 of that story. Down in the tropics, think the Amazon, Southeast Asia, we're seeing what's called extinction pressure. These incredibly complex, rich communities, those TS5 and TS6 blueprints, they just can't take the heat. The delicate balance is breaking. They're being downgraded, simplified into something much less diverse.
And the sheer scale of this it's just staggering. If we continue on a high emissions path, this simplification is projected to affect over 321,000 local animal populations. Now let that sink in. Each one of those isn't just a number, it represents a community of animals facing a potential local extinction. It's like pulling threads from the most vibrant, biodiverse tapestries on Earth.
But now, let's flip the coin and look at the other side of the world. In the Northern Hemisphere, places like North America, Europe, Asia, and even high up in the mountains, the exact opposite is happening. Those simpler blueprints, the TS1s and TS2s, they're warming up. And as they warm, they're becoming suitable for more complex communities. This creates a powerful force that scientists call colonization pressure.
And believe it or not, the scale of this pressure is even bigger. The model predicts that over 500,000, that's more than 557,000 local animal populations will be on the move, driven to colonize these new warmer areas. We're talking about a massive migration, a rewriting of the ecological map as animals push north and climb higher into places that used to be way too cold for them.
So with all this change, this massive reshuffling, who makes it? Who gets left behind? Well, it's not random at all. It turns out there are very clear winners and losers. And it all boils down to a pretty simple question. Are you a specialist or are you a generalist?
And this chart here really lays it all out. It's pretty crystal clear. The animals getting hit the hardest by this extinction pressure are the specialists. We're talking about creatures that have very specific diets, like certain kinds of insect eaters or fruit eaters.
Their entire survival is wrapped up in these super complex, stable ecosystems that are now, as we've seen, falling apart.
So here's the bottom line. Specialists, like animals that only eat one type of fruit or nectar from one type of flower, are hyper-adapted. They are perfectly tuned for one specific environment. But when that environment changes, they're in big trouble. Generalists, on the other hand, they're the adaptable ones. Think of carnivores that can hunt different prey or seed eaters that aren't picky. They can roll with the punches. And they're the ones that are perfectly positioned to move in and colonize all that new territory opening up in the north.
Okay, so let's put it all together. We've got simplification and loss in the tropics. We've got colonization and complexity in the north. What does that all add up to? What's the final consequence of this great animal reshuffle for the future of our planet?
Well, the study points to a pretty sobering outcome, something they call global homogenization. Think about it. As the unique, specialist-filled ecosystems of the tropics shrink and disappear, and as the same adaptable generalist species spread everywhere else, the world's animal communities start to look more and more alike. We risk a future where a forest in North America and a forest in Asia have a disturbingly similar cast of characters, losing the incredible, distinct flavor of life that makes our planet so special.
And this leads us to probably the most important takeaway of all. The researchers behind the study are basically sounding an alarm. They're saying that our old ways of thinking about conservation, focusing on saving one iconic species at a time, just isn't going to cut it anymore. We have to start using these powerful new models to think bigger, to protect the integrity of entire communities, the entire blueprint of an ecosystem.
And that really leaves us with one final, pretty heavy question to think about. This isn't just about data and computer models. This is about real-world places, unique webs of life that could just vanish. So as the world's animal communities become more and more alike, we really have to ask ourselves, what unique ecosystems, what irreplaceable parts of our world are we at risk of losing forever?